And welcome into the Thursday edition of Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls, Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. Hope everybody is off to a wonderful start of their morning here today. We'll have Charles Robinson coming up in the 8 o'clock hour for his weekly visit. Charles will join us from 8 to 8:30 as he does every Thursday morning. We'll get into all things NFL with him. We'll get to his prevailing draft takes from the Titans and others. I got to say, Joe, I cannot wait to get Charles's thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr. at number 8. It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, he better not see some people out here trying to make excuses for him,
Is that happening? Is that a thing?
Yeah, Dan Orlovsky.
Oh, boy.
And then Mina Kimes, to her credit, eviscerated both him and the Falcons. It's like, thank you. Thank you for saying the obvious things about how dumb this is.
Thank you very much. Joe, how are we doing? What's going on?
Well, doing, I don't have headphones. This is my fault. That's what happens sometimes, a pre-show meeting.
It gets intense.
Izzo starts going off about the portal, and you just forget to do stuff that you should have done,
Hours ago.
So, I guess I'm fine. I guess with Charles, I'll plug in.
There you go.
And go one ear. But someone stole my headphones again. Same old story. Nick he's trying to look away like he's not guilty.
He's not making eye.
Well, these are my headphones.
Nick's got one eye
no
on
idea what he's saying.
That massive folder of drops that he was really proud of yesterday. That he's just look at him, teeming with anticipation to use. Nick, how we doing?
I'm going to miss all of them today.
Yeah, exactly. I need to use less of them, but I'm good.
What's up, brother?
Nicely done. We'll take your thoughts all show long. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. So, obviously, Game 6 coming up between the Preds and the Canucks. We're going to get into that a little bit deeper in the 7 o'clock hour. I want to start, Joe, on the Titans. And apparently, Tyler Boyd, formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals, is coming in to visit the Titans later this week. According to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN yesterday, Tyler Boyd was in Los Angeles this week to meet with the Chargers and is heading to Nashville later this week, so I would assume today, tomorrow, some point, to meet with the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, there is a Brian Callahan connection there with him being the offensive coordinator in Cincinnati when Tyler Boyd was there. Tyler Boyd obviously has not found a deal yet out on the open market, and I'm interested to see when he does land, whether it's here, elsewhere, what exactly is that deal going to look like? He's coming off a year, 67 catches, 667 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's been, the third guy with Cincinnati behind Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Now, he's been a good player. He got targeted back in 2019, got targeted 148 times, 90 catches, over 1,000 yards, 79 catches for 841 in 2020. The last 3 years, his receptions have gone down, obviously, because he's been playing with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. So you're talking 67 catches in 2021, 58 catches in 2022, 67 again last year. But Tyler Boyd, a potential ad for the Tennessee Titans. What do you make of the idea of him coming in for a visit and what that could mean for the Titans should they elect to try to sign Tyler Boyd?
Well, certainly it makes sense that they would have some interest and that he would have interest considering the history with Brian Callahan. I think that it totally makes sense to look into this. If it really heats up and they look to sign him, I guess you could look at that as a commentary on the non-Ridley Hopkins guys on the roster, maybe a little bit on their preference to have a true slot receiver. But again, they just drafted one too, and they have one in Kyle Phillips. So even the interest here kind of tells me that, yes, they will move people around. They'll have Ridley in the slot. They'll have Hopkins in the slot. But there's a fair amount of this offense will involve more of the traditional slot receiver, which is what Tyler Boyd is. He had a 1,000-yard season, like you said, 2019. He's a guy with a 11.7 per catch, high volume catches, not big, numbers, not big yards per reception numbers. 31 touchdowns in his career. He's a good player. Yeah, I think it's a more proven performer, obviously, than Phillips or the rookie. So I think it would be a nice addition if they could make it happen. Now you've got 3 guys who have done it at a high level in the NFL and guys who still have, I think, good football left in them.
Well, I said it yesterday. I did not walk away from the draft thinking that the Titans had solved their wide receiver issues. Now, again, we talked about this heading into the offseason. It's been an incredibly active offseason for the Titans, both in free agency and then now the draft is complete. They've done a lot of stuff, and they still haven't filled all their needs, which kind of just goes to tell you how many needs they had to fill heading into this offseason. It was going to be borderline impossible to fill all those needs in one offseason. So, like, it wasn't like I walked out of the draft without them having them take a receiver high and thought to myself, well, that's incredibly disappointing. Like, I get it. Like, they needed a defensive lineman. Obviously, they needed a left tackle. So I get going the direction that they did. Still, I said it yesterday, they're one injury away with either a Ridley or a Hopkins or somebody else of being in pretty big trouble in terms of depth at wide receiver. So if Boyd comes in and when you've got 3 receivers on the field, for the most part, it's Hopkins, it's Ridley, it's Boyd. That's a pretty big upgrade over what we saw a year ago with this team. So certainly I think there should be interest there. I'm interested to see what the deal looks like for Boyd whenever he gets it. If they go this route and they do sign Tyler Boyd, what does that tell you about how they view Treylon Burks? Is that a commentary on Treylon Burks? How do you view how he fits into this mix if Boyd is a target for them?
He's a backup outside receiver. That's what he is. And that's basically – and he may be anyway. That's the thing. It's like, again, how much do they value having the guy in the slot who's the smaller, quicker guy who moves the chains? And, like Boyd is not tiny, by the way. Boyd's 6'2", 203. Yep. I mean, but that's kind of been his role. That obviously that receiving core has been so loaded too. It's hard to compare, but yeah, I think that's what it is. I think Treylon Burks is a backup. You hope if you're the Titans, he's the third guy, but NWI's sitting there, and so if Burks isn't having a great preseason, offseason, early season, then NWI is there to take that. That still means you're going to have opportunity if you're the third outside receiver, or if I guess you could just look at it as you're the fourth receiver, but that's what it would tell me. I certainly would not put him above Tyler Boyd on any depth chart.
No, for sure. And look, I've heard from a lot of Titans fans this offseason, well, maybe you could put Burks in the slot because he played a lot in the slot in college, which he did. I mean, you go back and look at some of the snaps that he took in college. A lot of them did come from the slot. Now, they move people around. We've talked about this before. I did see this from Kuharski yesterday on Twitter. Quote, kind of going over this situation here with Boyd. No matter what the Titans are saying about Treylon Burks, if they sign Tyler Boyd, that will say more. That's what Kuharski had to say about this on Twitter yesterday. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, obviously, so I think Callahan went on another show this week and was pretty effusive in praise for Burks. So I think that must be what he's referring to. And obviously that when I saw that, my initial reaction was that seems like a little bit of a course correction, a little bit of a reaction to the reaction of him not mentioning him, although, again, he was talking about slot receivers, but he mentioned Mason Kinsey. He didn't mention Burks. Burks is an outside receiver. Listen, the whole thing with the slot is, yes, you can put anybody in the slot, of course, obviously. You can go 11 personnel, 3 wide, and any receiver can be the inside receiver.
Yep.
But when you talk about someone like Burks played a lot in the slot, so did Ridley. You know why? Because they were the best player on that team, and so they were trying to get matchups for them. It's not the same thing as in the NFL. It just doesn't really translate. Yes, that means that you have played from the inside, but that's trying to move your best player around. I mean, Treylon Burks at Arkansas was an absolute world beater. You'll watch some of the highlights.
Oh, yeah.
So when you talk about the slot, it's pretty obvious to me that Brian Callahan in his offense, he wants to have more of the smaller, quicker, short space, short pass, move the chains, get a good matchup in there, and kind of have that as an outlet player. And that's not Traylon Burks.
What does let's say there's legitimate interest there in Tyler Boyd. You've just drafted Jaquan Jackson in the 6th round, who conceivably could play that role. Returner could be an interesting spot for him too. Does those two things, if it comes to pass, even if they don't sign Boyd, does the interest in him, does the drafting of Jaquan Jackson tell you that Kyle Phillips may be in serious trouble here in terms of making the team?
Yeah, I would think so. I would be interested to see the competition. I think the thing is, Phillips could also on his resume say, "Well, I'm a heck of a returner." But the problem is, and I know it's a new staff, so I guess maybe you could go etch a sketch, to borrow an Andrew Brand phrase. I love that. You can go etch a sketch on what he's done here and say, "Well, we're gonna watch him. This is our special teams coach, and we'll give him a fresh start." I think that would be big for him if he does. If he can be considered a returner too, then that's a competition.
Yep.
If not, it's like, well, this kid also does that, and so now if you sign Boyd, then one of them's not going to be on the roster. Well, probably not going to be the guy they just drafted.
Probably not. Just imagine how much better though Kyle Phillips can be returning now that he doesn't have Craig Aukerman, holding back, trying to catch the punt out there.
That is true. That's true. You could probably blame all those muffs on like some kind of like Aukerman in his ear, Aukerman.
Oh, he told me to drop this ball. Okay.
Good catch. Why is he telling me to just try to use one hand? Why is that? Why is that better?
Tyler Boyd rumored to be visiting the Titans later this week. We'll take your reaction to that. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. How do you view the current state of the Titans wide receiving core? More thoughts on that coming up next as well. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. Rexrode's got his headphones. It's a new day here on the program.
Yep, they were hidden under this bag over here. Someone hid them under this bag. Who do you suppose did that? Someone was trying to hide them.
I blame Nick Keyser. Nick Keyser is kind of like a quiet, unassuming guy.
Right.
That you just don't know. Like you'd never assume it was him violating the rules, but I'm gonna go him. Underrated.
Why were you trying to hide them from me?
First of all, my case is this. I was a little bit later than I usually am this morning, and I have a witness, so you can call on him.
Okay.
Right. Well, yeah.
But I didn't touch anything. I didn't go in there at all this morning.
Okay.
I mean, I would assume, in all seriousness, it would be another host who doesn't want anybody else to use.
Probably so.
And you can rule out Penalty Box Radio because their show was not here in person last night.
Oh gosh, he's divulging state secrets.
I'm just letting you know.
I mean, pretty soon Jared may hire you for Scotland Yard to join Jared's investigative crew. All right, well, I'm going to hide these. I'll tell you guys, when this show's over, I'm going to find a hiding spot that they will not. Of course, you and I won't be here. We're going to be at Bridgestone.
We're going to be at Bridgestone tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we'll be at the arena tomorrow in advance of Game 6. So we're looking forward to that between the Predators and the Canucks coming up tomorrow at Bridgestone Arena, which, by the way, game time released yesterday, 6 o'clock. Big fan of it. Some people aren't.
Hallelujah.
Some people think it's a little bit too early. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I understand that. I do. I think you're going to see some people who maybe show up a little bit late. But, can't you knock off 1 hour early on a Friday?
I think so. I think
if you were ever going to do it.
If you're an employer out there, let's do your part here. Let's get ready for the playoffs.
And if it's like, exactly, and if it's like the issue is you have to like go home, get your kids or something, and come back, put your kids in an Uber. They have Uber for kids now.
They do. That's right.
They do. They got Uber for kids.
Let's do that. It goes, just flies in the face of everything I was taught as a child. Don't ever get in a car with a stranger.
Probably
Now
not.
we do it all the time.
Well, they get the little Uber thing on the windshield. It's all fine.
That's great.
Everything's fine.
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Mike in Gallatin. Mike, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. Joe, I called Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Gang for your headphones. They're on their way to,
good.
Get it all figured out for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, hey, the best at the job. Anyway, we are looking at the new landscape of the team, and I'm seeing the fact that we don't have much in the tight end room outside of Chig, and that just shows to me that like that we could be running a lot more like 4 wide receiver sets potentially, which we haven't had that in a long time. So again, the idea of adding Tyler Boyd, who's a proven commodity at that number 3 spot, is exciting because, like you guys said a minute ago, we're 1 injury away from having to throw out Mason Kinsey as that 4th spot, and we're right back in that same spot. So again, like in the last 2-3 years I can recall, I just don't feel like we've had an opportunity to have this many weapons around a young quarterback like Levis, and I'm excited to potentially add him. I think it'd be good, and honestly, it'd be a big, vast improvement over trotting out NWI or Phillips potentially. So, yeah, I just think it shows that we are headed towards a completely different scheme than what we've seen in the past, and I'm excited to see a little more fast-paced football than the Jeff Fisher slow pace that we've been dealing with, it feels like, for the last decade.
Yep, thanks for the call, Mike. Appreciate it. I am interested to see, like, when the season gets here, how many more times do they go 4 wide? How much different does the offense look in terms of just formationally what they do out there under Brian Callahan? That part of it's going to be interesting. Like, you can have the thought of wanting to do that more. You also have to have the personnel to do it. So there's that part of it too. But I do think, like, I don't think it's a big hot take, Joe, to say that you're going to see them throw the ball probably more than we're used to seeing them throw the ball, and you're going to see some different. It's going to be a different offense, and maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I don't know. Like, that's part of what we talked about the other day with Brian Callahan, first-time head coach, first-time play caller. May not go well. I have no clue what that's going to look like for Brian Callahan, but it is going to be different. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, and certainly with Boyd, you can go 4 wide. You can do different things. I appreciate Mike taking shots there at NWI and
catching strays.
And taking shots at NWI and Mason Kinsey, but also the mystery machine. That's a good. I think Jared is Fred. Is that right? Did we decide that at one point? Jared Fred and Caroline is Velma. Maybe I think maybe. But no, I think also at tight end. Let's remember. Look, a lot of these teams.
Kuharski, Shaggy.
Oh my gosh, got to have those Scooby snacks at the lava lamp. Remember, a lot of teams have tight ends who were UDFAs, and the Titans, Steven Stylianos, Iowa tight end, he played at Iowa. So, but they certainly need to, whether it's he sticks or maybe there's somebody else out there, they've got to add to the room. I think for sure. I mean, I still think the tight end is going to be part of the offense. It was part of the Bengals offense for sure. And that's another thing. Like, do they look at Chig as the type of guy who you detach him and you can really get him involved in this offense or not? I mean, it's obviously last year hopes were high for Chig along with Traylon Burks and others, and it didn't go as well as hoped for Chig. There are a lot of issues around the offense at large, but he dropped too many passes and just wasn't the explosive playmaker I thought he might be. Doesn't mean he can't be in this offense. I still think that he's certainly got some plays in him this year.
Skyler throwing the question out there, is there any chance there's a trade with Burks to fill a need, maybe to Buffalo or Arizona for a second-string tackle or a safety or something like that? Just from Skyler. Any chance that Burks gets moved?
At least that's a realistic ask on the return. I mean, there's still people here and there that are like, how about get like a second-round pick for Burks? It's like, guys,
yeah.
Like, you're not getting much for Traylon Burks right now. I just think the value to the Titans – I mean, look, I wouldn't rule something like that out, but I think the value to the Titans is him emerging this year, right? Like that's I think what that's the better outcome for them.
Well, even if it's not a number one receiver, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, we talked
depth
so much,
is good.
We talked so much about Burks. Like, at this point, him being what they drafted him to be, to me, just seems like it's totally unrealistic. Like, he's not going to be a number one wide receiver in this league. Could he be a good 3? I would take that right now. If you're the Titans and you gave me that option, and he was like, you know what, he's not going to be a number 1, but he's going to be a good number 3 for you. Yes, it's not what you drafted him to be. The people that drafted him are gone. The coaching staff that drafted him is gone. So I would sign up for that right now.
Absolutely. Because remember, Hopkins is right now here for one more year, unless they try to get an extension going there. So number 3 means you're number 2 next year, unless they address it, which they may.
Which they need to do.
Sure, but we'll see. He's got another season. If I'm the Titans, rather than go find like a off the street tackle for him, I would rather, with this new offensive staff, see what he can do for a year. I think that's worthwhile.
It is interesting to think about tight end in this offense, because when you think back to Cincinnati and what we saw under Brian Callahan there, the tight end was never really a focal point. Now, again, when you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, you're probably not going to be drawing up many plays to throw the ball at the tight end. Like, you want to get the ball to those two guys. So with Chig and Wiley heading into this year, how involved are they going to be in the offense? I think it's a really intriguing question. Like, I still believe Chig, like when his rookie year, you watch him after the catch. That was what to me was so disappointing about his season last year. It wasn't just the dropping the football, because obviously that's got to get better. And by the way, like, he did get better at catching the ball later in the season as the year went on. But to me, like, there wasn't hardly anything after the catch for him last year, and that was such a weapon for him in his rookie season. So is that coming back? Like, can you find a way to make some plays after the catch if you're a Okonkwo, which we just didn't see a whole lot of last year?
Yeah, but I think it's there. I do think that there's ability there for him to do it. So maybe he's rejuvenated in this offense. There's so many questions. Can they, when they need to line up on 3rd and 1, can they go get a yard? Who's getting the ball in that situation? Like, you still have situational football and you have short yardage, and is it straight up pass to run as an offense, whereas they've very much been run to pass for the last several years? A lot of questions, but I thought that with the Bengals, again, they could get that yard with Joe Mixon too, when they were in those situations. So, and then how do the tight ends factor into that?
There's a lot of questions about the Titans heading into this season and beyond. There's one that I want to throw out there that I think may map out their future for the next 5 to 10 years. We'll get into that coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Join 102.5 The Game for Kubota Orange Days at the grand opening of Coleman Tractor of Nashville's newest location this Saturday. Stop by anytime from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. this Saturday for demos, deals, giveaways, and lunch from 11 a.m. to 1. 1025 The Game will be on site from 10 a.m. to noon. Stop by and see us at Coleman Tractor of Nashville's newest location, 7221 Whites Creek Pike in Jolton. 7221 Whites Creek Pike. There's no S in the creek. In Jolton. There you go.
Nice job. Way to
Thank you.
got it fixed quickly.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Taking your thoughts on the Titans. We'll have the Choice is Yours, a special Thursday edition coming up at 6:45. So looking forward to that. So, Joe, there's a question that I want to throw out there. That it's not everything when it comes to the Titans and kind of mapping out what they're going to be over the next 5, 6, 7 years. But I do think it's important, and that is at the quarterback position, how important is it that Will Levis not only obviously be good, but how important is it that he be either the best quarterback in the division or at worst the second quarterback in the division? And the reason I bring that up, like I think we've seen this before. I think there have been plenty of teams that have had good quarterbacks that have just not been able to overcome some of the better quarterbacks either in their own division or in their own conference, and you really have nothing to show for it at the end of the day. So, like, there's a scenario to me where Will Levis can be pretty good for the Titans, and then C.J. Stroud's great, or Anthony Richardson is great, and the good in Will Levis maybe isn't good enough, and you can't get around those two teams. Now, again, with 7 playoff spots now, you can get in the playoffs without winning the division. You can get in the playoffs when you're third in your division. Like there's more of a path to getting to the postseason now than there used to be. But if you're a good player and you're still the third or fourth best quarterback in your division, I would have to imagine at some point that's going to be a problem for you if you're the Titans to try to get to ultimately where you want to get to. So not only like just the trying to figure out this year if you're the Titans whether or not he's a good player, which we've talked a lot about Levis. I have reasonable confidence that he's at least a good player. How important is it as they go along here over the next few years that he evolves into being either number 1 or number 2 when you start to line up the quarterback list in the AFC South?
Yeah, it's important. You would think that they're not going to have the success that they would like to have unless he is. I suppose it's possible if everybody is really good, he could still slot in after Stroud and, even I guess Richardson, but he's right there and it's a debate, then fine. There are examples certainly of teams, if you want to, this year, let's go this year to the NFC North. Now, I understand I'm talking about a rookie, but there are some people who might argue that considering Jordan Love's emergence and with Caleb Williams coming in, that Jared Goff would be no better than the third best quarterback in the NFC North. Some would disagree with that, but you could make that case. And the Lions, I think, are the favorites to win it because of their entire team. So like you had that. I mean, Brock Purdy is not nearly as talented as Matthew Stafford, but
Correct.
Their team is way better. So there are situations like that. But yeah, I would say over the long haul, if there's a clear gap, and especially like a Richardson, I think Richardson and Levis are to me the wild cards. I also, by the way, am not ready to just like get the jacket ready for Stroud. He was great last year, but let's see.
I'm not ready to get
have ups and downs
for sure. Like I'm not ready to get the jacket ready for Stroud and just anoint him as the great quarterback in this division moving forward. Maybe he is. It's about as good of a start as you can have in terms of his rookie season. And I'm also not ready to just like totally bury Trevor Lawrence either, though I am disappointed in terms of like I thought he would be at a higher level than he's been by this point. And maybe he'll get there, maybe he won't. Maybe this is just what he is, and that is a pretty good but not great quarterback.
I think he's at least good, right?
He's pretty good.
Pretty, you put pretty in front of it, and that means it's a shade below good. I think he's good. I wouldn't say very good.
Yeah, okay, he's a good quarterback.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and that's
there
the
are
thing.
some people that think that it's like, no, he's a bust.
Well, he's a bust relative to he's the clear number 1 pick. He's generational, transformational, all this stuff, and that's the thing. For the most part, that's not what happens.
Right.
Here and there, it happens. Even And we're going to see, of course, with Harbaugh, but even for as excited as people are about Herbert, he's been what? You can see the talent, but he's been pretty good, at times good. So you go across the league, even like guys who Jalen Hurts has this big breakout season and then kind of comes back to earth last year. It's just there's so little actual great at the position in the NFL. But to your original question, Levis needs to be right in there with Lawrence and Richardson soon enough. And we'll see with Stroud. Is Stroud just going to keep elevating from last year? They have a heck of a team around him this year. I think he's very good, but we talked about Levis's ceiling yesterday. Levis's ceiling is right there. He could be contending to be the best quarterback in the division. That's may sound silly now, but I think that's possible if we're talking ceiling.
If we're talking ceiling, I think it is too. And look, when it's possible for the Titans and for anybody else, right? Like you brought up the Lions. I think it's a good example. Like I for one am not willing to just anoint Caleb Williams yet. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I certainly think when you look at the NFC North, like Jordan Love's a pretty darn good quarterback. We'll see about the two rookies coming in. Jared Goff's a good player, and he's not a superstar quarterback, but their team around him is pretty good. Like it's possible to have. I mean, we saw it at Tannehill. It's possible to have a good quarterback with a pretty darn good team around you that elevates, right? And that becomes the best team. So it's not like
the team elevates you.
Yeah, it's not like you have to have the best quarterback in the division in order to compete. I'm just saying, like, for long-term consistent success in your division, I think that's probably the most important factor, is having the top quarterback or two in the division.
And that's the crazy thing about the AFC South is, like, we have all these exciting options at all the teams. I mean, when's the last time that happened? That all four teams had a QB with hope.
I can't think of one. Like they've all been at the same time.
Like all four teams had a QB that they all thought / hope / knew were the franchise quarterback. Houston,
I mean,
knows,
I guess,
but
even then, you had Mariota, you had Watson in Houston, you had Andrew Luck.
You still had Luck.
And then you had
your Blake Bortles. Yeah.
I mean, I guess they hoped for a little bit.
Well, it's funny you say that, because let's not forget when Bortles got them to the AFC title game, they should have won in New England. And that, I think Luck was still around then, right?
I think
Luck was still around then. So that would have been a little moment in time with all of them. And who knows, maybe you go back during the Manning era, left witch, and you cross paths with Vince Young somewhere in there,
David Garrard, yeah.
There you go. But right now, at this moment, it's interesting. It's like the Texans know. They know they have their guy. Now, it's been 1 year, but of course they feel certain about that, right? He was fantastic last year. The Colts think. The Titans hope / with some confidence, right?
Yeah.
And then the Jags are an interesting one because he is their guy, but like you said, he's not setting the world on fire.
Well, he's going to get paid too. That's the thing. Like I think people are going to be pretty stunned when his next contract comes around, like how much money he makes, and it's because the market is what it is for quarterbacks right now. But I mean, Lawrence in his career,
I don't think you can not pay him.
Yeah, like Lawrence in his career, 63.8% completion percentage, 6-7 an attempt, 58 touchdowns, 39 interceptions. Like, those are decent numbers. Not great numbers by any stretch of the imagination. And last year, when you thought everything was coming together for them, I mean, he kind of faltered toward the end. Now, Charles has talked about this, and we've talked about this with other people as well. I think it's pretty clear he was probably a little bit more hurt than they let on last year. So I am interested to see, like, if he could stay healthy, what exactly could he look like in a full season there? But I think a lot of people, and I've seen this from Titans fans too, you're like, okay, we're not really worried about Trevor Lawrence. He's good, but he's not great. It's the other two that you're concerned about with Stroud and Richardson. And Richardson, I don't think anybody has any idea what he's going to be at the NFL level.
No. The range of possibilities there is huge. Yeah, Lawrence, you think back to last year. I mean, you think about what the Titans did in that winner-take-all game.
Yep.
For the most part, I mean, that game was won on a Joshua Dobbs strip sack. And then how completely ineffective he was the next week as they're getting rolled by the Chargers. But then all of a sudden he turns it on and
looked great.
Yeah, he ended up winning that game. But I think he's just going to be like most quarterbacks. If you can be good to very good, can you get to very good and have a good enough team around you? And really, that's what you hope if you're realistic as a Titans fan about Levis. Can he be very good, and can they build enough around him? Because if you can do that, you can win at the highest level in this league.
I still contend if Trevor Lawrence had a better nickname, he might be a little bit better out there. This is Pro Football Reference. Brady with the Pharaoh as the nickname is pretty darn good.
Never heard that before, but yes.
Trevor Lawrence, the prince who was promised, not very good.
No.
I mean, we got to come up with something better than that.
No. That's from Shrek, right?
I
Isn't
think
that from
so.
Shrek?
Does Levis have one? Let's see if Levis has one. He does not on Pro Football Reference.
I mean,
Billy Jeans.
They don't have Billy Jeans.
They don't have Billy Jeans. We got to get this thing updated.
I continue to have people on the text line every day on the text line. People type something in about Levis and it comes across Levi's.
Yep.
He is Billy Jeans.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, it's time for The Choice is Yours. As always, we'll take your participation on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We all have choices to make. Like right now. It's The Choice is Yours, built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice, so when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete, and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours, now on Robby and Rexrode.
The Choice is Yours, normally on Wednesdays at 6:30. Had to move it yesterday because of the reaction to the Predators playoff game in game number 5. Choice is Yours brought to you by Jarrett Companies Fire and Commercial and Plumbing HVAC Division. Call 615-515-1290 or visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. I'm in the questions chair this week. Would you like to begin with sports or non-sports?
Non-sports.
Non-sports.
You always pick non-sports.
He does. Keyser hates sports. All right. Food or beverage, in honor of my recent, love of coffee. Food or beverage that you used to hate, but now you like. And by the way, coffee is not my answer. But food or beverage that you used to hate, but now you enjoy.
A few come to mind. As a kid, I hated tomatoes. And still, I don't eat them like an apple or anything, but I like tomatoes like in a salad or whatever. I hated onions, and now that I cook things, I use onions a lot. And sometimes on some things, I actually put onions intentionally. There's like this summer salad I do with red onions, also these Greek chicken bowls with onions. So I think onions and tomatoes would be the two things that come to mind. Liver, I still hate. My mom made me eat it when I was a little boy. Hated that stuff.
I would say, and I really enjoy this now, and I always would be prompted to try it growing up, but salad was not something I loved growing up, and I did not like my greens. I've gotten better about that as I've gotten older, for sure. But yeah, salad was one of them for sure. I don't know about anything else. I wasn't that bad. I mean, I was picky, but I wasn't stuck to the basic things most of my time growing up. But yeah, I think salad's the biggest one. I like Joe just mentioned liver. I don't like applesauce. I have trauma with applesauce.
Really? Do I hate applesauce.
Yeah, it's not great.
What's wrong with you two?
Terrible.
Applesauce is great. Okay, you
why
guys are
don't
crazy.
you put some applesauce in your banana pudding? Just make everybody puke.
I bet that'd be pretty good. Might try that one day. Mine is very strongly onions. Onions, I used to hate onions as a child to the point where, if somebody accidentally put onions on my burger or something, I would just take that thing and throw it away. Wouldn't even touch it.
Wouldn't even take them off?
No, guys, you've ruined the entire patty because these onions have been on there and it's touched it. No, thank you. Now, especially to your point, grilled onions, hard to beat. And I tell you this, I used to hate, my dad has done this for a long time. We'll grill up some onions and kind of infuse them in baked potatoes when he's grilling some baked potatoes. Used to think it was the most disgusting thing in the world. And now, quite frankly, very difficult for me to eat a baked potato without it. Got to have some grilled onions on there, a little bit of caramelized.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the grilled onions for sure. I've done a total 180 on that in my life.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a kid to adult thing.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, into sports. The most annoying fan base, any sport. Who comes to mind? Most annoying fan base in any sport.
Oh boy. I'm walking through a minefield right now.
If you need to think, I can go.
Go ahead.
I would say the Toronto Maple Leafs fans.
Okay.
I
like that.
a friend of mine growing up that moved from Toronto down to Hendersonville, and he was one of my childhood friends. And I would stay at his house, and we'd watch hockey a night in Canada, and I would learn how annoying it was to watch a game, not only with him, but then when his family and in-laws came in town during the holidays.
Wow.
So I got it firsthand growing up here in Nashville, what it was like to sit with the annoying Toronto fans. Now, I loved them. They're great people. They weren't horrible all the time watching the game, but they're annoying whenever they do get riled up.
A lot of Leafs fans. Not a whole lot of success that they've enjoyed, and we'll see what they do the rest of the series. I thought
they've been teased.
I thought they were done the other night, and they came back and won in overtime, but
it's just prolonging.
We'll see. I think
it's just prolonging the inevitable. Well, look, I have to go with Michigan fans. Okay.
Oh boy.
I know, but this is just because of personal. So yeah, as I've said before, if you are the beat, I see this now. In fact, I see Vol Twitter sometimes go after Aria, Gerson, who covers Vanderbilt, and she sometimes gets into it with them. So, but I'm just saying, like, if you are the beat writer of a team's rival, those fans hate you more than like almost anybody in the world. They think that you are just a total. So many years covering Michigan State, Michigan fans were insufferable. Also, just the sort of like this idea of they do things differently and stuff, and it's like, guys, stop it with that stuff. You've been a football factory for a century, so I will go there and take the hits to the dome that I'll get now.
I think Yankees fans would be an easy way to go in this competition here. I'll tell you one that has become a recent contender, and I think this happens anytime you start winning a whole lot. The Georgia Bulldog football fan base, very proud, very proud of themselves. Can be very annoying, but again, that's what happens when you start winning. I think a lot of people's answer would be like when you start winning, that fan base becomes pretty insufferable because they're doing a lot of winning, and there's nothing you could really do about it at that time.
Yes, for sure, and the fact that no one mentioned the Tennessee Volunteers fan base is interesting.
I think you could.
You're a part of it.
I think you could put them up.
But
there.
even you, as a part of that fan base, can recognize like a fringe that it's a fringe, but it's a big fringe.
It's a big fringe.
It's a big fringe.
It's got to be on the list.
Man, are they something else?
Got to be on the list. No doubt about that. All right, non-sports. Place in the United States you haven't been to yet that you want to visit. Anywhere in the United States you have not yet visited that is on the list.
Sedona.
Yeah,
I'd love to go out there.
I've been there. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, you've talked about Sedona.
Sedona's good. Sedona's good. I'm going to go Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe
I've been
on the
there.
list for me. It looks awesome. I'd love to go there. My other honorable mention is Alaska, but that's kind of like an overarching thing. It's a big state. So one day I'm going to get there, but Lake Tahoe, first answer.
I've been about 3 or 4 times, so if you need places to go, let me know.
Okay. There you go.
Lake Tahoe is pretty good. I've not been there. I mean, I've been to a lot of places, and a lot of places that I haven't been, I'm like, I guess I'd say Alaska, but I would definitely go in the summertime because, just I'll go when it's like daylight all day long. And
I can be out there like mushing snow dogs around.
Yeah, but I'd like to see it for sure. So, yeah, we'll go there.
The Iditarod, Rexrode and the Iditarod out there.
Yeah, that'd go well.
Last thing here, back into sports. What is the single best sports atmosphere you've ever encountered? The single best sports atmosphere that you've ever encountered.
Nashville Predators, Western Conference Final, Game 6, Colton Sissons hat trick.
That's a pretty good one.
I think that would be it. My second one, really quickly, would be the Mike Fisher overtime game winner against the Sharks.
Okay. So two Preds games. I will say the Game 6 to get to the Cup Finals on the list for me too.
Yeah. See, the thing is, we don't have time for me to what all goes into that, because like setting.
It's open ended.
Yeah. I mean, I still would put the Rose Bowl. I've covered a Rose Bowl, and like it's hard to beat the setting of where it is and what that day is with the parade and everything. But that's not the same. I mean, sports atmosphere, you mostly think of. Oh God. I mean, certainly both of those that Nick said, those are amazing atmospheres. I mean, an aircraft carrier for a basketball game,
pretty good.
That's that was a good atmosphere. I'm really blowing this one. I still think that the most intense atmospheres I've seen are college basketball atmospheres. Like I'll go with what I think is the best arena. I covered a Michigan State at Kansas game in like 2003, and that place was rocking. It was a huge top 5 teams game. Incredible old school place. I'll go with that. I'll just go with Allen Fieldhouse for a huge game, and Cameron Indoors right after it.
See, I knew this would be good for you because you've been a lot of places.
Yeah.
Mine is probably Neyland in some capacity. I've been to a lot of
some good ones.
A lot of Neyland games. Preds playoff games are on the list. I mean, I do think the most unique Preds playoff atmosphere I've been to was either the Game 6 game, but probably honestly Game 3 of the Cup Final. Game 3 of the Cup Final against Pittsburgh was pretty darn
When
wild.
they were there early,
Yeah.
and of course, remember Pecorino had been pulled,
Yeah.
and they were all yes.
So that's
a
probably
good
my answer.
call.
Is
That's a very
Game
good
3
call.
of the Cup final. 615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. Speaking of the Preds, Game 6 coming up tomorrow at Bridgestone Arena. A massive opportunity for the Predators to extend the series, and they're doing it in a place at home where they've not won a game so far in this series. We'll get into that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by Chuck McDowell and Medical House Calls, Middle Tennessee's best medical care in the comfort and safety of your own home. For more information, go to medicalhousecalls.com. Medical House Calls, where the nearest clinic is your home. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keys are here with you on this Thursday morning. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports will be with us at 8 o'clock for his weekly visit. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans, the NFL draft, all things NFL with him coming up at 8 o'clock. So looking forward to that. A big one, about as big as it gets, tomorrow for the Predators at home, trying to keep their season alive. They're down 3-2 in the series. They're at home. Game 6 coming up, and what I'm sure is going to be a pretty raucous environment at Bridgestone Arena. We know the start time. It's going to be 6 p.m. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Some people love that. Some people a little nervous about that in terms of what that could mean for people kind of filing in a little bit late with the early start time. We'll see what happens on that front. A big opportunity for the Predators, who feel like they've kind of found their game here over the last 3 games. Andrew Burnett spoke yesterday, Michael McCarron, Alex Carrier, and messaging was pretty similar in terms of, they feel pretty good, feel pretty confident with the way that they're playing, and we'll see if they can win one game to force what's going to be, if it happens, a pretty raucous Game 7 with a lot at stake on both sides, but a whole lot at stake at Vancouver. And I caught up with Rick Tocchet last night. We're going to hear that here in just a few minutes on the show of kind of his team's process and mindset heading into all this. But so far, Joe, it's been a series where the road team has dominated, and maybe not from a territorial edge, maybe not from a shot on goal chances edge, but the Predators and the Canucks, the last 4 games, the road team has won. So obviously, if that trend continues, then the series is going to come to an end tomorrow at Bridgestone Arena. You got to find a way, if you're the Predators, to win one game. Look, as well as they've played at home in this series, they've outshot Vancouver 60-33 in the 2 games here so far. Obviously, we know what happened in Game 4. It was an all-time collapse. They've played well for the most part at home, but quite frankly, like if you get through a playoff series and you can't win a game at home, you don't deserve to win a playoff series, and that's the bottom line for the Predators heading into the game tomorrow night. You got to find a way to win a game at home.
Right. You got to find a way to win a game at home, which would put you 1-2, and then you got to find a way to end up 3-1 on their ice, which would be quite a feat. Quite a feat. But yeah, it's the home thing. Yeah, I feel like the Preds, again, I think 3 straight games they've mostly played like they want to play. Ever since they didn't play like they wanted to play, when the 4-1 win that they had, that third period was something else, but they've mostly, I think, played like they want to play, and it's just it's a mistake here, a mistake there, a finish here, a finish there. And I just think that's what's going to be here. I think it's going to be that tomorrow, and I think if there's a Sunday, it's the same thing. It's an evenly matched series, even though I still think Vancouver has a better roster, has more talent than the Preds do.
I agree, and to me, the next 2 games here, starting tomorrow, and if you can force a Game 7, it comes down to those 3 guys we've talked about a lot, like Josi, Forsberg, Saros. And I thought all 3 of them stepped up and made some big plays in Game 5. Obviously, Josi and Forsberg on kind of the give and go there on the power play, and Josi drives to the net. I mean, Joe, I can remember off the top of my head, I think like 3 or 4 times all series where Josi's gotten a pretty clean look at the net. One, he hit the post, I think, in Game 1 off the crossbar. Obviously, there was the one in Game 4 where he drove wide, created the scoring chance for Philip Forsberg. And then Game 5, he gets loose and finds some open ice, which has been hard to come by. And he basically, Ricky Bobby slingshots his way to the net there. Nyquist comes in there to clean it up. But those 3 guys, like, can you find a way, if you're Josi, if you're Forsberg, and if you're Saros, to be the difference makers in this series? We could talk about Novak, and we could talk about lineup changes, and they're going to have some guys step up and score, and the power play's got to get better and all those things. But those 3 guys, if the Predators are going to win this series, those are the 3 that are going to have to drive the bus and play well. And I thought a good sign from all 3 of them in Game 5.
Yes, no doubt. Now, obviously, Saros, there's no way around Saros. as the goalie. He has to play, I think, great for them to have a chance to win any more games in the series. And Yossi and Forsberg, well, you mentioned the power play, 2 for 19 now. They team up on that.
They do.
And that last time they actually got a goal to go from 1 for 18 to 2 for 19. That's a big jump percentage.
It is.
Right there. So the power play and those two on it. And, yeah, and the top line with Forsberg. I mean, I feel like Ryan O'Reilly has played well. He's also made some big mistakes. Gus Nyquist, I think, is becoming a little bit more visible in the series.
Agreed.
And I still think he probably should have gotten credit for that goal, but I guess not. He didn't get it, so there's no proof that he touched the puck.
I guess not.
He hit
I
the
don't know how it
goalie
would've gone
whose
in
butt
if it
put the puck in the net, I guess. But that line, as a whole, has to be, what it's been for most of the year too. So, but I think that Forsberg is gaining momentum in the series, and he's sitting at 6 points now.
Yep, 6 points, 5 games. I think you hit on the guy that you want to see find the back of the net a little bit more, and that's O'Reilly. Like, O'Reilly had the first goal of the series on the power play, so they had their first power play opportunity of the series. He scored, and that's the last goal he has. He's got 2 points in 5 games. Now, I do think for the most part he's played pretty well, pretty decently. Now, again, as you mentioned, Game 4, he was a big part of kind of that debacle in Game 4, which was tough to watch. But you'd like to see him find the net a little bit more. And the thing about him is he's done it throughout his career. He has scored some massive goals in the postseason. And you look at his career in total, he's played 80 playoff games. He's got 67 points, 26 goals, 41 assists. Obviously, there was the run in 19 where he won the Conn Smythe there for playoff MVP for the Blues. He's had some big moments in the playoffs. And I would say this series, even though I think majority of the time 5-on-5, he's played well. The story about O'Reilly in this series has more been missed opportunities than it has been anything else. Game 4, I think, really kind of encompasses that. Not only the breakdowns in your own end, but we talked about it. He had an opportunity to put the game away. I mean, there was a play on the doorstep where he just whiffed on the puck, where if you score, you're up 4-1 there, and I get what happened at the end of the game happened, but the game's over. Like,
Three of those
if you
aren't
score that
happening,
goal,
right?
It's 4-1 and the game's over. So I think it's been a little bit more about missed opportunities for O'Reilly in this series than you would have liked heading into it. And he's the one guy that in the back of my mind, outside the obvious of Forsberg, Yossi, and Saros, where I'm like, we've seen him play big in big moments, really all year long, but throughout his career as well. And you need some of that in Game 6 and 7.
Yeah, and this goes to, I heard you guys talking on Preds Insiders about something we talked about going into the series, which is the playoff experience. Game 4 flies completely in the face of playoff experience mattering. All those veterans were on the ice and lost the game, made mistakes, lost the game. So whatever, didn't mean much to you, but the series is still alive. They did exactly what you need to do, is flush it and go get on a plane and go win a game. So maybe we still see that ultimately prevail for them.
Maybe so. I agree with you. Like, Game 4 kind of flies totally in the face of that. And I do think as you get deeper in the series, that probably matters
Both
less
teams are
and less.
experienced now.
You're just playing the same team that you've played at this point 5 times.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different.
Becomes its own thing.
I will say, like, when you're down 1-0 in the third period of an elimination game, and some of your veterans step up the way that they did, is that all playoff experience? No, but I do think there's a level of kind of keeping your poise and not totally panicking there that was good to see from them.
That's a great point. The tying goal, it's a really nice, poised, and a precise play from Forsberg and Yossi. Nyquist gets in there. And then Nyquist is really the one who kind of makes it happen to end up getting it over to Carrier for the winning goal. So you also had McDonough, missing the open net.
You did.
Nothing's perfect out there, but I think that's probably something that you could point to if you're Andrew Brunette and say there's where some playoff experience played off. It manifested itself in poise.
No question. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More your thoughts on game number 6 coming up between the Predators and the Canucks at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow. Plus, You'll hear my conversation with Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet from yesterday as well. All that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hey, Robbie Stanley here. The NBA playoffs have tipped off, but it's not too late to get in on the action with FanDuel because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 that you can use on same-game parlays, live bets, championship futures, and a whole lot more. There's no better place to bet on all the playoff action than America's #1 sportsbook. Here's a tip for you tonight. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are donezo. I think Indiana finishes this off tonight. They're up 3-2 in the series. They're at home. I think the Pacers finish the job against the Bucks. But you can take it any way you want to take it. Just go to FanDuel.com/Rob in order to get started. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/Rob. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on the Norfolk Tides at First Horizon Park. Pregame at 6:20, first pitch 6:35. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Preds and Canucks coming up in Game 6 tomorrow from Bridgestone Arena. Preds trying to keep their season alive and force a decisive Game 7, which would be on Sunday in Vancouver. By the way, the Edmonton Oilers have punched their ticket to the second round, so
that's what's waiting for you.
They are sitting there waiting on the winner of Vancouver and Nashville with their power play clicking at darn near 50% so far through the playoffs.
Yeah, they dipped under 50 last night. 9 for 20 in the series.
Tough one.
That's too bad. And no power play goals for the Kings in the whole series. How about that?
That's a pretty decisive special teams advantage.
A little bit.
That the Oilers had. And McDavid has 11 assists in 5 games.
Sure.
So there's that you got to look forward to if you're the Canucks and or the Predators, but you got to get there first. And the Canucks have won both games so far in this series at Bridgestone Arena. I think most people would agree that they've been heavily outplayed for the most part in those 2 games. But you don't really ask about that this time of year. You ask about who wins. And I caught up with Rick Tocchet, Canucks head coach, last night in advance of Game 6 to kind of get his thoughts on his team, his group heading into Bridgestone Arena and trying to close out the series tomorrow. Here was what Vancouver Canucks head coach Rick Tocchet had to say yesterday. So, Rick, you guys have obviously picked up 2 wins on the road here. What have you liked about your team's approach on the road, and what do you think has to get better for Game 6 on Friday?
Yeah, we've been a pretty good road team all year, so I think we're comfortable playing outside our building. Sometimes we play actually better on the road, but this is a tough building. We know that there's a couple games there maybe we didn't deserve, just like we thought Game 5 we deserved. So it's one of those series that doesn't really matter. It's who wins the game.
And you've talked about the closeout game of a series being the hardest to accomplish. Beyond the obvious of just the desperation level of the other team, what makes it so difficult to get that done?
Well, I think that obviously the desperation of the other team is a big one, and I think you have to match it. And you have to be comfortable in a tight game. I think that's really important. If it's 0-0 late in the game, even if it's 1-0, going into the third, I think you got to be very comfortable playing in that and then just buy your time for your chances. I think sometimes when you want to close out, you push the envelope too much, and next thing you know, you're giving up odd-man rushes, power plays, things like that.
Shilov's playing for Game 6, or are you still kind of working through that?
We're still working through that.
Okay. As you look at what they've been able to do just in terms of puck possession the last couple of games, they're better obviously in Game 5 for you guys, but what stands out on the road about trying to play with the puck a little bit more than you did in Games 3 and 4? Yeah,
they're a good rush team, and they got us on the forecheck. I didn't think we were connected here. I thought we were a lot better in Game 5, so hopefully we can start that trend of holding on to more pucks, obviously, and getting some more shots on net.
What's the key to getting to Saros when he's on like he was in Game 5?
Yeah, he's a great goalie. I think you got, obviously, traffic. You got to get in front of him. He doesn't quit in any place, so you got to bear down. Maybe some shot tips, maybe from the side of that sometimes can help. But, I think with him, you just got to keep him busy. You got to make a lot of people in front of him.
So that's Rick Tocchet yesterday at Vancouver Canucks media availability. Did not commit to a Game 6 starter in goal there. So part of that was a poor question by me. I shouldn't have given him an out there, and I did. But
what you need to say is, tell me right now, Rick,
we're not leaving
answer.
The room.
Yeah.
We're not leaving this room.
Who's starting in goal?
Until you tell me who is starting in goal. The reporting around it is, Joe, that DeSmith is healthy and can go and can play. And look, when you made him the backup last game, that kind of tells me he's good enough to play here. So we'll see. My guess is they go Shilovs again. I think he's been pretty good. I think both games they brought him in, I think he's been pretty good. And then if it doesn't work, you could always go back to DeSmith in Game 7. But I think you'll probably see them go Shilovs in Game 6. But we'll see. We'll see what happens on that front. I thought his answer on trying to close out a game and being comfortable in tight games was interesting. You've heard it, he's been kind of driving this home since Game 4, the final score there of, to win this next game and close out the series is going to be really, really, really hard. And trying to get his team that really hasn't done this for the most part to realize that and to buy into it. And I thought it was interesting, trying to do too much. Sometimes you try to do too much and push the envelope a little bit too much when you're trying to close out the game, and that could burn you the other way. So I'm interested. Like it sounds like he really wants a very simple, I don't want to say safe, but a very smart approach on the road in Game 6 when he knows the Predators are going to be buzzing.
Yeah, it's fun last night watching Dallas Vegas. It was amazing the amount of open ice for everybody.
A little different.
It's like ice dancing, I hear. Like, just with speed through the neutral zone with the puck, no problem. Just sort of leave clear lanes for your goalie, and that's it. You're fine. Other than that, leave people alone. And then you watch this series, and it's just, it's very much not that. I mean, think about the fact that Saros saw 110 shots in games 3 and 4 in 21. He's seen 92 in this series in 5 games.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But interesting comment from Tocchet, I thought, there on them being connected. More connected in Game 5, but not as much here. And I think that makes sense. Although, I still feel like the Preds were definitely the better team in the second and third periods. Period 1 of Game 5, there's another one where I guess you could look at when we talk about playoff experience mattering. The Preds survived it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they were absolutely all over them early, buzzing, just like you expect the Preds to be, like you said, Friday night, and they just couldn't get one in. They had a lot of shots blocked, and Saros made a couple saves, and they survived it, and then the Preds took over the game, I think, in terms of possessing the puck. So it's really just wild to think about the Canucks really not playing that well in 2 games here and being 2-0 in those games.
It is, but that's up to the Predators. Like, you have to take advantage of that.
Right, you got to finish plays.
When you dominate territorially the way they have here, you've got to find a way to take advantage of that. And look, it may not play out that way in Game 6. Like, just because you've carried the play in Games 3 and 4 here does not mean that's what it's going to be in Game 6. So, like, that same approach has to be top of mind. And yes, the matchups help, and yes, the crowd helps, and all that works for you. But again, like, if you think that home ice advantage is going to be some big thing for you in Game 6, just look at the results in this series. It's not gone that way.
Yeah. Well, maybe it did help in how you played well.
Yeah.
Like, you played well in general. It's like Kaharski yesterday. What do you mean they played well? And I'm like, well, they did. They made the killer mistakes at the end. I mean, there's no getting around it. They made the killer mistakes in a 3-minute stretch. So all discredit to them for the mistakes they made, but that doesn't erase that the bulk of the play was how they want to play.
Contributed 2 of these. They have lost 5 games in a row on home ice in the playoffs. The last Carolina game in Game 6, obviously Colorado did not go well in Games 3 and 4 here at home. And then Games 3 and 4 in the first round of this series. So you've been 5 games in a row here at home ice in the playoffs where you've not won. You got to find a way to flip that back around.
Yeah, that seems bad.
Seems bad. So
you
could say they're due. Are they due for a win at home? Who knows?
Yeah. Don't jinx them.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts on the Titans, your thoughts on Preds Canucks Game 6, everything on the table coming up next. We'll take it any way you want to take it on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Rob Rant at 7:45, Charles Robinson at 8 o'clock, all that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 102.5, 106.3 The Game tonight as the Nashville Cats take on the Albany Firebirds on the road. Pregame at 6:30, kickoff 7 o'clock. Coverage also available on the 102.5 The Game app and at theGameNashville.com. Cats football on 102.5, 106.3 The Game, presented by Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. We're taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line and welcome in Michael in Mount Juliet. Michael, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you so much. I apologize ahead of time if you covered it before I got to listen. I heard you guys talking about the top line needing to do a little more, Ryan O'Reilly and such. What about, have you identified a line or a person that's, a depth piece that needs to step up more, even if not goal scoring? Somebody who needs to be more physical, play better the defensive zone. Is there anybody that, you see that maybe could do more in that on that front?
Yeah, thanks for the call, Michael. I mean, the obvious answer is Novak, right? Like if Novak is going to stay in the lineup, which, I guess he is at this point. We'll see. We'll see if there's a late adjustment in the series and a lineup change by Andrew Burnett. But if Novak's going to be in there, like at some point in the series, you got to find a way to make a play. And he's not made a single play in this series in terms of one that's generated any sort of offense. You got to find a way to make a play if you're Tommy Novak and you're going to be in the lineup. And again, like he just signed a new contract. He's not going anywhere. He's 3 years. Money's not a terrible deal by any stretch of the imagination, but you got to find a way to be more effective than he's been. So Novak to me is the obvious answer on the offensive side of things. I still think at times like Lozon and Carrier have kind of been all over the place a little bit in this series defensively. Game 1 was bad from those two. They've responded well since then, and obviously Carrier scores the huge goal in Game 5. So those guys have been fine. But I do think whoever gets matched up against JT Miller and his line, there's been a lot of just kind of holding on for dear life when Miller and that line have been out there. And I think at home, you've got to find a way to neutralize those guys a little bit more than you have. I mean, those two in particular, Miller and Besser, they totally took over last time they were here late in the game. And you can't let that happen.
Yeah. Now, again, that's 6-9-5, but even earlier, the first goal from Besser just completely, and that was Fabro and the deep pairing, that was Fabro and
was Yossi? I'm trying to remember who was out there. Because there was an icing, so they got caught out there with an icing, so it may have been jumbled up, but I'd have to go look.
Yeah. As far as the being more physical, stuff like that, I feel like the guys who that's their job for the most part are doing their job exactly as you want them to do their job, which is part of how the Preds are carrying the play in a lot of these games. I would not have any notes right now for the McCarrons, not that they're playing perfect, but for the McCarrons, Cole Smiths, Jankowski, those guys are Sherwood is all over the place. I think he's been all over the place all series. I really like how Zucker's playing in this series. And that Sissons line, that's the preferred matchup for Miller, right?
Yeah.
Is the Sissons line. So I think those guys are doing, for the most part, what you want them to do.
I think that the McCarron line, I think has gotten better as the series has gone along.
Early on, there were some struggles.
Game 1 they got shelled. They got hemmed in there, and everybody got shelled in Game 2. I think since then, not only have they been pretty good in their own end, but they've spent a little bit more time in the offensive zone. Like they had a couple of shifts in Game 5 where they're just cycling in the offensive zone. And, they're never going to be a line, to me, that creates, like, a ton of scoring chances. Like, you're not those three together are not going to change, like, most games offensively. But if you can spend some time in the offensive zone and really start to wear on them,
that's a win.
Like, that's a win with that group. And they did that a little bit more in Game 5.
And then here and there, McCarron will do
chip
something
in.
a little bit saucy, give
Sherwood's
you a chance.
rang a couple off the post in this series that if you just find a way to bear down and finish on one of those, that could be a big difference.
Yeah. So it comes down to your big money players doing like what Yossi and Forsberg did last game. They have to keep doing it. They probably aren't going to win 2 games. Of course, Saros, there's no escaping Saros as a key, right? But the other 2 guys, those are the three of the 4 guys in this team who were there going all the way back to the Cup final run. And obviously your 2 stars. They've got if they don't have some production, I don't see how the Preds win 2 games.
Josh from Lebanon If Luke Shen is healthy tomorrow, do you pull Fabro out, or do you leave Barry in, or do you scratch Tyson Barry? Which way would you go tomorrow? If Shen's back in, which way are you going with Barry/Fabro?
I think I'm probably keeping Fabro and putting Barry back in one of the many, many suits he's worn this year. I just – because I thought Fabro played pretty well. He's out there throwing himself around, and I feel like there's a little bit more reliability there. I know that they put Barry on the power play, and obviously that's his strength. And so you could say, well, why wouldn't you want a little bit more of that? But the power play was still brutal except for the one play that Yossi and Forsberg made. So I think I would go Fabro.
I think I would too. Caleb on the text line says, I know I'm getting tired of watching Fabro play hockey. The guy stinks. This is from Caleb.
Well,
I think he'd probably go Barry.
I guess you're going Barry then.
Keezer, which way would you go? Fabro, Barry, if Shen's coming back in. Who you playing, who you sitting out?
Dante Fabro's playing. I like the way he dictates the pace of the game. I think he can control the puck a little bit better in the corner, and just with his size and dexterity, I feel like look, I think Barry's a great defenseman. I think he's good on special teams. I mean, he picked up 1 assist in the last game. And Robby, you and I talked about this yesterday. But look, I think just in the grand scheme of things, Tyson, he's going to get bullied if he stays out there in a series, I feel like. But I do like the way he provides offense. If Dante stays in, I think it's the safer option just based on he knows this team better, he knows the system better, and I think you can also trust him in other game situations as well. So give me Fabro.
One thing that was interesting about Game 5 is the Canucks didn't really allow the Predators from a matchup standpoint to get to Yossi McDonough together as much as they like to get to. So that's the one thing. Like with Fabro in, I think they're pretty comfortable going Yossi Fabro. Like that pairing by the numbers has been pretty good this year. So they're comfortable going Yossi Fabro where they have to. And when you're at home, that's where that comes into play too. Like you can go Yossi Fabro like they did in Game 4, and then in certain situations, be it a D-zone draw, be it when you feel like you really need to make a play and want your best 5 possible out there, you can put Yossi McDonough together and kind of free Yossi up a little bit on his right side for the one-timer, which they like to do. So I think a little bit more flexibility at home. I think that I saw Yossi and Barry out there together, I think once or twice in Game 5. I don't think that's a pairing.
You don't want a steady diet of that.
They want a steady diet of.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason Barry hasn't been playing. I think it has to speak somewhat to, and I understand all the stuff that happened with the media move him and all that stuff. But before that, he wasn't playing, so it seems that Andrew Brunette doesn't want him in the lineup. Right?
Also, Ethan from Lawrenceburg is like, yes, please put Mr. Can't Skate or Pass in over Barry or Fabro. Talking about Luke Shen. Like Luke Shen has been very good in this series. I don't know what you guys are watching, but Luke Shen has been he's not been a problem at all in this series. He's been very good.
And I think Luke Shen, and I get it, there have been some moments this season where he's just looked like a lumbering big guy, and he makes a bad play or he gets victimized, and it's like, oh, God. And he's an older guy, but I think maybe it's been a little bit exaggerated too, his struggles even during the regular season. But I'm with you. He has been pounding people in this series, and I think that fits in exactly with what you need more of in this series.
Well, look, I don't love the Luke Shen contract. The fact they gave him 3 years, I was like, oh, boy, I don't know if that's going to go very well for you. But this series is pretty much tailor-made for him. Like, this is the physicality, the size that's required. This is a Luke Shen type of series. Now, if they win this series, next series may not be. Like, if they got to Edmonton, that may not go very well for Luke Shen.
Maybe put in Tyson Barrie against his old team.
Yeah, like some of it's matchup-driven too. But I think if you're watching the 4 games this series that Luke Shen has been in, and you're coming away from it thinking he's been a problem, I don't really know what you're watching in this series.
Yeah, I think playoff hockey so far in this series, but playoff hockey, it's like the 2 players. One, it benefits more. There's Luke Shen. One, it has been very bad for Tommy Novak, right? I mean, compare their performances in the regular season to this series.
Yeah.
There's the difference in what regular season playoff hockey is.
Join Cromwell Media along with local athletes and musicians at Hermitage Golf Course on June the 20th for the 615 Open. You can make a difference while supporting Souls for Souls. Every $20 raised goes to a new pair of shoes for a local child experiencing homelessness. Sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Coming up next, it is time for the Rob Rant. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
Hey, so you're looking to get on a Nashville Pedal Tavern tour? Well, I got 3 easy steps that are going to get you there. Step 1, you're going to book your tour online. We do not pick up anyone off of the street.
Cap. Clenching your butt cheeks, you're saying? Like, who does that?
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant here on Robby and Rexrode. That might have been the most random mashup the Keezers ever tossed together.
Wow.
I kind of like it, but it might have been the most random one he's ever tossed together.
I enjoyed it.
Well, Rocky Top coming back in, too. Yeah. All right, so I guess let me just go ahead and get the disclaimers out of the way. I, as somebody who was born here and who has grown up my entire life in the Nashville / Middle Tennessee area, I am very happy that the city has grown to the point where people love coming here. There's a lot to do here for tourists. It's a fun town. You know, being on the NHL beat, I can tell you it's not just lip service. Like, everybody that comes here, it's in the top 3 or 4 of their favorite places to come in the entire league. So all that's great. Like, there's the Nashville today and the Nashville when I was born back in the early 90s. 2 very different things. Some of that is a very good thing. Some of that I think maybe not so much. But it's 2 very different things. But overall, I'm very happy that the city is growing. People are coming here spending money. People love coming to Nashville, all those things. That's great. I will say, though, trying to navigate through downtown, through the Broadway area, and over on the Mumbrian with some of these touristy spots and the pedal taverns and the party buses is becoming ungodly annoying. And I was doing this yesterday, and I think the weekend was a little bit more of an extreme example because you had the marathon going on, there were road closures, and you still had some of these party buses and all this other stuff going around. Like, I saw one on Saturday that was like an old fire truck that they had kind of remodeled into a party bus. And as you guys know, like, if you've been downtown for any length of time, there are some lights down there where you've got a very finite amount of time to make the light. And when you've got the pedal tavern and or the party bus in front of you going approximately 5 miles an hour,
you will not.
You're not making it. And I got stuck at about 3 or 4 over the weekend. That's enough to make me almost violent. Like, it drives me nuts when that stuff happens. I don't know what the solution is. I understand that you know, people have brought this up a lot, and people that live here locally not very happy with, like, the pedal tavern, party bus sort of thing. They got to make their money. They're capitalizing on tourists, all this stuff. And if you're going to have those things, having them in the Broadway area is probably the way to have them. But we got to do something about this. Like, they are so in the way downtown. Downtown, with the amount of people that come here on the weekends, especially when the weather gets warm, and with the amount of people that now live here, I don't know that our roads anymore are really built for it. Like, traffic can get bad down there. We saw it last Friday before the playoff game. I mean, I heard story after story of people stuck on the interstate or people stuck downtown, and a ride that normally takes 20 minutes took over an hour to get to the arena, all this stuff. And I get it. It's more than just the pedal taverns, and it's more than just the party buses. But good Lord, we got to come up with some sort of solution because I am so tired of getting stuck behind these things and being just in no man's land downtown. It's a problem. I don't like it.
So I was in East Lansing, Michigan, a couple weeks ago. Little college town. Went out, walk around downtown. The freaking pedal tavern.
Oh,
I'm like,
boy.
what is going on? It is, first of all,
Sweeping the nation.
it's spreading like syphilis, okay? So so at least, I don't know if that makes you feel any better or not, but like it's like Indy. I mean, it's all over the place. I saw it in Detroit about a month ago up there for the Vols. So, but yes, obviously here, this is the center of the pedal tavern universe.
Not even walking by them. Like, I'm glad that people are having fun, but like, you got, you know, people just dancing and gyrating and yelling and all this other stuff. It's like, guys, all I'm trying to do is just walk to my job. Can you please leave me alone?
They always have to scream at you,
I know.
too.
Just please leave me alone.
What about the idea of getting rid of the driving element of Lower Broadway and taking the cars off?
I think I'm in
the
favor of
road
that.
and just making it a walking area with pedal taverns and open intox and just make it just get the cars out of it altogether.
I think I'm okay with that. Now, I say that, and I realize I just talked about how there's not enough room down there and to navigate and all this other stuff with your car. So I'm not smart enough
You're
to know.
limiting your options
Yeah,
there,
like,
but
I'm not smart enough logistically to know what that would do to, like, vehicle traffic downtown. It probably wouldn't be good.
But, like, I do everything I can ever do to not be trying to drive in there.
100%.
So I'm already going wide of it and going down, church or whatever, right? So I feel like that might be and then you just keep all the crap in there. They did restrict some things, right, with the party bus.
I believe so. Yes, I believe they have, but it still has a high frequency of getting in my way. And this is a really selfish rant. It's all about me.
No, man. But the thing is, many people were right with you.
Yes.
And when you throw in the scooter aspect of it too, It's like playing Frogger in real life.
It really is. Which I will say,
do you want me to almost kill?
The scooter part of it, I think, has gotten better. Like, I remember when those bird scooters like first came down there, and people were weaving in and out and trying to like dodge traffic, and there were the people that had been in the bars all day long that then tried to hop on the scooters and face planted in the middle of the road, and like somebody got hit down there. Like it was a problem for a while, and I do feel like it's gotten a little bit better with the scooter part of it. But I mean, we've turned into. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know how many of you, I'm sure a lot of you out there have been to like Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, where it's just like there's a strip along the Pigeon Forge part of it where it's just like basically a long, gigantic amusement park. There's fun houses, there's go-karts, all this other stuff. And it's like one road, right? Like there's like one road in or out. And it's always nowadays just backed up there. Like it's backed up, it's hard to move. And I feel like in some ways that's what we've turned into downtown. We're like a more confined Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg down there with all the attractions.
So then you could go take another step and just make it that what it is. A lot of ideas here on the text line about what we should do about this. The light rail. I do like a light rail. I think at some point it would be nice to have a light rail for sure. But someone's sitting here. There's a party bus that you can't drink on it, and they don't tell you until after you signed up for it. Oh my!
Is that a real thing?
My
goodness.
Jeez. I almost feel bad for them. I would actually let them scream at me. Woo!
Way to go, guys!
How's your monster?
How's that going up there? Hope you enjoy some sweet tea.
Go ahead, just yell. You can throw your drink on me. It's fine.
I will. And the reason, I was down there yesterday, and I got stuck behind this one bus, and I missed like 3 lights because of it. And it wasn't really that big a deal because I was early yesterday, but just in general, it's been a problem.
But when you are in a hurry, ooh.
And I will say, it's not like we've not handled big events before. I mean, there was a Stanley Cup final and CMA Fest going on here at the same time, and somehow we pulled it off. So I have no doubt that tomorrow we'll pull off the Morgan Wallen concert and the playoff hockey game. But I will say, when you factor in potential rain, which it's going to have, the concert, the playoff hockey game, and you get all this stuff going on downtown with the pedal taverns, for one, I'm getting there tomorrow. For morning skate, I'm not leaving. I'm hanging around at Bridgestone Arena all day long, baby. I'm not going anywhere. Not even going to involve myself in all that.
That's probably a good call. I know I've been going back and forth on that. I don't want to do that, but maybe that's
a long day,
thing to do.
but it's worth it.
Yeah. Someone had it. Well, Dennis says abolish the party. They said they're not going to abolish it. They're not going to abolish the party buses of scooters. But, yes, I think sometimes they seem to get really off the beaten path, too. Like, randomly you'll have one, like, down on Korean War Vets way down, and I'm like, why are you driving out here?
Keith on the text line, going back to the party bus that doesn't allow drinking. He said, I think that's just called a bus.
Yeah,
I think that's just a bus. Eric says, Robby, you're speaking for the OG people of Nashville. Downtown has turned into a complete clown show. Again,
but
a lot of fun things to do downtown.
Exactly. But as someone else pointed out, do you like the benefits of being a tourist destination? Do you like the benefits of every bachelorette party in the world wants to be here? There are good things about it. Some people benefit more than others.
Personally, no, I don't like it.
Well, but
I understand why people do.
Yeah. I think that there's a way that everybody can coexist and
we just got to find
be
it.
Happy.
Got to be just get out of the way. Maybe create your own little side street for the party buses.
Like a dog park?
Maybe so. What would we call that? We'll take your thoughts on that too.
Cougar Park?
615-737-1025 is our number. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans and the aftermath of the NFL draft as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Thursday morning. And as we do every Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, we go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Charles Robinson from Yahoo Sports. Charles, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, gents. How you doing this morning?
We're awesome. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Charles, the L.A. Chargers take Joe Alt at number 5. New York goes with Malik Neighbors at number 6, which makes the draft board for the Titans end up with J.C. Latham at pick number 7, tackle out of Alabama. First off, what did you make of the Chargers? I guess the smoke around offensive line being a real thing, and them going with Joe Alt, and what did you make of the Titans selection of J.C. Latham?
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess Jim Harbaugh tells the truth.
Kind of.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's you definitely heard. What was interesting to me was in the probably 48 hours prior to the pick, there were quite a few people who were like, they're taking Latham. The Chargers are going to take Latham at 5. That Harbaugh really wanted a run-dominant tackle. Somebody who wouldn't have to be taught basically how to maul people at the line of scrimmage. And I think I kind of put it out there in the probably last day before the draft that they were connected to it, got killed on it. And then I saw Daniel Jeremiah came out, same deal. And I thought, okay, well, at least we're hearing, some of the same things. And then what happens? They go with Alt, who obviously is a more balanced, pass protecting offensive lineman, natural left tackle, and that left Latham on the board. And I was trying to recall, I think I texted Joe, I was like, did we talk about Latham? Because I had heard that the Titans really, really liked Latham quite a bit. Joe and I were disagreeing about where he was on their board. I don't know if we ever really resolved that. But I thought at the very least I knew it left a tackle for the Titans that they really liked. I mean, the thing about Latham, when I had the conversations I had about him potentially come off the board at 5, it was just that, like, hey, here's a guy that, especially from the physicality standpoint, it's really hard to teach an offensive lineman to be a nasty run blocker. And that if you can start with that kind of a base where someone just wants to do it, they want to be able to destroy you at the line of scrimmage, you can, those guys can be taught, how to be better pass blockers. There's more upside at times. I believe that.
Yeah, well, you had to bet on it.
I think it depends on who they would have listened to, and if son listens to father, I think that Latham ends up being the pick, even if both are there at number 7. I truly believe that. I think that had Alt been on the board, it's not a slam dunk that Alt would have been the choice at number 7. I think Bill Callahan really, really liked Latham, and again, it's about building a consensus inside. It would have been a great problem to have. I will put it that way, but I will not say that, if Titans fans are disappointed that that's the tackle they ended up with. I will just say that might have been the tackle you ended up with regardless.
That would have been wild too. And
I think it would have been shocking, but I'm just telling you, Joe.
People would probably be more excited though, right? Because wouldn't they? Because it's like you had everybody available and you picked him.
Yeah, and I think that I'm sure there was some element of disappointment. Oh, we lost our guy at 5. Here was the thing. Like when I don't want to say Alt's like a finesse player, but when I was talking about the Chargers potentially taking him at 5, the argument in their building was, and Harbaugh really wants to be able to run the ball, and he really wants players who, again, I can't stress enough, really want to be able to do that as players. And I think the thought process internally with the Chargers, I think there were a couple of people who are like, yes, Alt is the more balanced player. He's more capable of stepping in and operating, in the scheme, both pass and run. But I think it's just sometimes when you get guys that are maybe considered a little better pass blockers than they are run blockers, there are always going to be people in your building that see that as a little bit of a finesse aspect. And, you ask, what do you want to, like, I remember Andre Dillard when, and I bring this up because Titans fans are experienced.
They know him well.
Yeah. Well, when he went through Philly, I remember when Philly took him in the first and having conversations with people in their building, and they're like, yeah, clearly far and away he's a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker. Going to have to teach him how to be a run blocker. And it did not go well. And it was, I think they saw the struggle. You assume that Jeff Stoutland's going to be able to finish him off, as a product and over time, and they just really never got there. And so I think the thing about Latham that clearly people inside the Chargers really liked, and why I think it was a close pick at 5, was just because he's nasty, and it's like, hey, we can plug this guy in. He will absolutely pound the human being in front of him, and that leaves a lot of upside on the table, rounding him out as a pass blocker over time, which is a heck of a lot easier to do than taking a top level pass blocker and then going, okay, now we got to teach you how to really be a nasty run blocker. You do not. I think most teams do not want to be in that situation if they really want somebody who's going to have the kind of mentality that Latham brings to the table. So I think long term, people are going to be really happy with this pick, and I hope at some point maybe there's a little more of a revelation about the conversation that was going on in the building, and I'm sure there's some people who are going to say, hey, look, if all had been there, here's how our board would have stacked up, and maybe for some people it would have top of the board. I just don't think it was unanimous at all.
So let's go to the next pick, because you talk about another reach, but also a very talented player. We know about the DWI. What do you think of that? What did you hear about T'Vondre Sweat leading into the draft as a prospect, and what people thought of him?
I was surprised by that pick, definitely, because it was, I think there were a couple of things prior to even the DWI. Well, there was